Also at the 2000 camp was free agent Trent Dilfer, their new backup quarterback. Dilfer's 6 years in Tampa had been difficult, and he had more critics than touchdown passes.
Some of the louder voices, it was bust, 1 year wonder in '97, not a great thrower. I heard that a lot. And the reality that I went from starting for 5 years and not missing a snap, and then hurting my collarbone, and now hitting the backup quarterback market was a little disappointing. And the one thing I went into that quote-unquote free agency period, the perspective I had was I wasn't going to settle. I was going to go to a place where I could develop my skills, become a better player, and prove to people that the kind of archaic system that I had been through in Tampa wasn't me.
5 of Baltimore's first 7 games would be on the road. But as he would all season, Brian Billick turned the hardship to his advantage.
He constantly fueled this us against the world mentality. Kind of using it as motivation. Look at the league's trying to screw us, and nobody thinks that we matter.
Got another hell of one on the road. Hey, right? No big deal. On the road again.
We get the short end of the stick and all that stuff, and that was good. I mean, it definitely motivated some guys.
Especially quarterback Tony Banks, who started the 2000 season with a hot hand. After an opening day win in Pittsburgh, Banks threw a career-high 5 touchdown passes against the Jaguars. His last came with just 48 seconds left to win the game.
He sits, goes deep down the middle, he's got it, and the place is going Ravens. 39-46, and it's one of the football games you're going to say, oh my goodness.
Banks was the confident starter, but oddly enough, his backup was even more self-assured.
The competitive part of me obviously wanted to play. This is a hard thing to say on camera, but I never doubted that I would be the quarterback for that football team. And never once, I was 100% sure that at some point I would be the quarterback of that football team.
The real leader of the team was Ray Lewis. He was the spearhead of a defense that shut out 2 of its first 4 opponents. Rookie Jamal Lewis was turning heads, and Baltimore's veteran pass rushers were knocking out quarterbacks. Ravens were 3-1, but the schedule was about to get even tougher.
Now begins the journey. This whole thing leads up to 3 games on the road, and we'll get to where we want to go. Boy, we just look lethargic. Come on now, we got to get tempo about us.
In October, the 3-1 Ravens hit the road and hit the wall. Their offense failed to score a touchdown the entire month. The team was unraveling.
We can't block. We're going to take a knee every snap. I've got to be able to do something. There's something I can do to change this. That's my job. That's my responsibility. But you couldn't beat them up. Their egos, their confidence was going to be so fragile. The other part of that is the defense needs to know that you recognize the problem. They want to see something done. So all that frustration builds up.
You're supposed to score touchdowns.
No, we're supposed to win games. We can score a ton of touchdowns. We can lead. I've been there. I've been fired at a San Diego State where we were 5th in total offense, 6th in scoring, and I got my fired because we lost games. Okay? So let's win the games, and if the numbers come with it, that's great. No, I'm not frustrated.
Anytime you have a locker room where one side of the ball is playing poorly and the other side of the ball is playing very well, there's great potential for division. And I forever admire those defensive guys for not allowing. Absolutely, they were pissed.
It's ridiculous, man.
In week Week 7 at Washington, Tony Banks threw a critical end zone interception, and it cost Baltimore the game. A week later, Banks threw 3 more interceptions, and the Ravens fell to 5-3. Banks lost the game and his job.
There's nothing more dramatic for a team to deal with, good or bad, than the change at the quarterback position. And it just, it had to happen.
You knew they were coming. It's blocked up. Just deliver it to him, Tony. You got to let Trent try to do something here now. Okay, we got you, Tony.
I'm not going to promise anything spectacular, except that I'll prepare as hard as anybody in this league will prepare, and I will play as hard as anybody in this league will play.
A lot of people have failed to realize one thing. Trent Dilfer practiced against arguably the best defense in NFL history an entire season. He was prepared for anything.
When I took over, I said, okay, if you're going to make me the quarterback, then we're going to do 2 things differently. We're going to have more tempo offensively. We're going to quit thinking so much. We were thinking so much. We were weighing ourselves down with trying to be perfect. And then the other thing is we were going to get the ball to our best players, period. I don't care about this route concept and what we're trying to take advantage of here. We're only trying to score 17 points here. You know, we get 17, we're not going to lose. So let's get it the easy way. Let's get Shannon Sharp and Jamal Lewis the ball, and then let's hit Stokely in the middle and Codger on the outside. If Shannon comes open first, he's going to get the football. And the next play, if he comes open first, he's going to get the football. And I just made it very clear. If you don't like it, put me on the bench.
In Week 10, after 5 games without a touchdown, Trent Dilfer got the Ravens into the end zone.
You could tell the players responded to it. You could see the pure, you'd have really thought we had just won the Super Bowl. The look in their eye, and you knew from that point on we were going to be okay.
And that touchdown started something very special. Nobody knew it would start an 11-game winning streak, but it did.
Track all the way.
Trent Dilfer had earned the starting job for the 6-4 Ravens. But it was in Tennessee in Week 11 that he earned the respect of his teammates.
We went into Tennessee recognizing that Tennessee was probably going to win the division. This was a team that had never lost in its new stadium. Not only were we going to have to beat them there during the season, but we were likely going to have to come back there during the postseason.
Snap back to Dilfer. Blitz is on. Dilfer throws deep upfield. This one's got a step. He's got it. He's at the 10-5. Touchdown. Conrad Ismail.
The Ravens built a quick 14-0 lead, but the Titans fought back to tie it. What happened next was a defining moment for Trent Dilfer.
So we're working down in position when Trent throws a bonehead interception. The kind of interception that had marked his career and he'd been criticized before. The players knew that. Trent knew that.
You know, I made the mistake, obviously, and I recognize it, and I don't really need to hear anything. And Brian gives me his, you know, his big scowl, his big tough guy scowl, and looks at me and says, "You just cost us the effing game."
Hey, come on. Oh, I'm making the play to win the game. Don't worry. I'm going to let you do it this week. I want to do it. I want to do it. You ain't coming out of the game. I know, man. I got to prop your ass up. I got you.
I went right back in the huddle. I looked at each guy in the huddle, and I said, "Listen, you guys are looking for somebody right now. Look at me, because I'm going to make a play. It's going to win us this game." I knew at that moment that if I came through with that, this was going to be a big deal for that football team.
Rolling out to his right. Looking, throwing, touchdown. Johnson
Nothing came easily for Dilfer. Moments of triumph were short-lived and sometimes stolen away.
Game ends, looking for my playbook. I can't find my playbook. So I told Matt Kaplan, hey, my playbook was stolen. I did not lose this thing. I have witnesses who saw me studying, and this thing was stolen. Well, don't worry about it, well, they do.
While Dilfer searched nervously for his lost playbook, Brian Billick found a magazine. In January of 2000, after the Rams defeated the Titans in Super Bowl 34, police arrived at an Atlanta nightclub. 2 young men had been murdered. Patrons were questioned, suspects were arrested, and an investigation began.
I got a phone call the night after the Super Bowl late. It's a phone call if you're a parent you dread. Other than I knew both my daughters were at home in their rooms. So I knew that this wasn't going to be good and that it was going to involve my team.
One of those arrested was Ray Lewis, the Baltimore Ravens star linebacker. The defender was now a defendant. The charge was double murder.
There was none of us that could call anybody that we knew that had dealt with an indictment of a current player for 2 counts of murder. And what do you do in this situation?
After 4 months of legal proceedings, the most serious charges were dropped. But Lewis pled guilty to a misdemeanor charge of obstruction of justice.
Guilty.
In August, the Ravens held a press conference, but Lewis addressed the team privately.
When I first came back, Brian said, do you want to speak? I said, because the time wasn't right. My heart was going through too much other stuff.
Lewis pledged to be their leader again, on and off the field. Then he shared with them a jail cell vision.
What God showed me is our destiny ends in Tampa, Florida. 20 minutes away from my hometown. I said, I saw it. We're in the Super Bowl.
It don't matter about me no more. I done been to the Pro Bowls. I done been linebacker yet. None of that matters. I need to get to Tampa. Now.
I said, now I need every man to believe that in their hearts. That I saw the vision. And I don't care what goes on in this season. Don't you ever turn your back on one another. Ever.
Suspicion would shadow Ray Lewis for the entire 2000 season. Juries of 70,000 people awaited him in every city he played in. Along the way, there would be scrapes and scars, which somehow made a tough team even stronger.
I want to be very careful in characterizing how we benefited from this as a team, because at the end of the day, we've got to remind ourselves that there were 2 individuals that died that evening. To go through this with Ray, we knew in every city we went into, in any city we played, there were going to be certain attacks on Ray, on the team. The challenge of that is something that I think brought this team together. My role really, and it was kind of odd, here I'm this offensive guy that went to school at this Christian BYU, and now I'm the head of a bunch of what some people thought was a bunch of thugs and gang members. Not only because of some of the things that transpired prior to the season, but anytime you win defensively, you take on that person. Nasty, mean, rough, raunchy, whatever term you want to put to it. So all of a sudden, I find myself out in front of this kind of team.
We were always pissed off. Always pissed off.
You can't hurt this. I'm a machine, jerk.
So we play with a chip on our shoulders.
Grab him by the throat, take him with us, and we'll get out of here and go home. All right? Who's with me?
But what was created through that chip on your shoulder was a bond.
We got each other. We don't need nobody else.
If I got your back, you got my back. If I go to war, we go to war together.
Brian Billick never forgot that in combat, the shield is just as important as the sword.
He was the big brother. He was the big brother. He was the one that would get in the interviews and take the hits for us. He trusted us as men.
I don't think it's fired up enough, right? I don't know, man. I don't see it yet.
So he was like, look, I'm not really trying to step on nobody's toes or stop anything y'all are doing. I need y'all to be who you are.
Now, Billick had to change. This wasn't the NFL's highest scoring team ever. He created that